It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the Cougars. It's Thursday, January 8th, and I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. So much to get to on this loaded edition of Cougar Tracks. We start things off with BYU football promoting its new defensive coordinator in Kelly Poppinga.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
BYU football made it official on Wednesday night. Kelly Poppinga has been elevated from defensive ends coach and special teams coordinator to now the defensive coordinator in replace of Jay Hill, who, of course, took over the DC spot at Michigan. And I think it's a good move. BYU stays from within. A key piece to all of this is that there's a foundation and identity that Kalani Sitake envisioned this defense would be when he took the job back in 2016. That is materializing as BYU the last two seasons has two top 20 scoring defenses the past 2 years. And no surprise, BYU has been the winningest team in the Big 12 during that time. Still, no Big 12 championships in that stretch. No college football playoff appearances either. So BYU has a lot to achieve, and Kelly Poppinga is going to be tasked with taking the defense to a higher level. Last night at the BYU basketball game against Arizona State at halftime, K-Pop was acknowledged by Keanu Tanavasa, who, by the way, Keanu Tanavasa, he's got to be a public speaker one day. He is fantastic, but he took the mic, spoke to Cougar Nation, and gave his endorsement and the BYU players to their new DC in Kelly Poppinga.
Last thing we want to say is all of us returning with our new defense coordinator who are extremely stoked about Coach Poppinga. We're ready to go to the championship game to win it, to enter the college football playoffs.
How about that? They're ready to win the championship game, go to the playoff, but I thought it was cool that all the players that are running it back, locking in, as they've said on many announcements, that they endorse Kelly Poppinga, and I think that plays a role into why many of these players ran it back, because when you do experience change, and losing someone like Jay Hill was noteworthy, it creates a little bit of uneasiness. Whenever there's transition, people, especially in college football, get uneasy. But this retention piece, I think it's the right move at the right time for BYU. Along with Kelly Poppinga, Sione Buha promoted to associate head coach. And then DeMario Warren, former Southern Utah head coach from 2016 to 2021, he gets tasked with the passing game, defensive passing game coordinator spot. He was previously at Boise State, so he joins the staff. And I think his addition is noteworthy because he once mentored Gennaro Guilford when Gennaro was on the Southern Utah staff. So I think that there's a lot to like there with DeMario Warren joining the staff, and a lot of continuity, a lot of familiarity with what Kalani Sitake expects out of this defense, and you still have Gary Anderson as a senior analyst. I thought some of the responses on social media from former players coming out were great endorsements too of Kelly Poppinga, because he's been connected to some great defenses. Go back to 2012, one of the best BYU defenses ever. Number 3 nationally that season. He was the linebacker coach on that team. Sione Takitaki, a guy that was coached and developed by Kelly Poppinga, he wrote on X, Coach Pop, this is the perfect man for the job, LFG. Dylan Collie, former BYU wide receiver, Hawaii wide receiver, younger brother to Austin Collie. I thought he had a pretty cool post on X. I love this guy. He writes, I hope everyone understands that this is the best of both worlds situation. Take everything you love about Bronco, Kalani, and even Lavelle. That's Coach Pop. And I think that's a great comment and a great poll, because there were so many good defenses in the Bronco Mendenhall era, 2009, 2012, 06, 07. Crazy to think those are 20 years ago now. But then also recently, the last 2 years, these BYU defenses have been awesome. And when you factor in the strength of schedule, there's a lot to like. And here's the 4 things that I really like about K-Pop getting promoted to defensive coordinator. Number 1, he knows the standard at BYU and what they need to do to succeed and break through to win the Big 12 championship and to get to the college football playoff, as Keanu Tanavasa laid out. He knows where the deficiencies lie the past couple years. It's been great defenses, but there's still areas to get better. K-Pop knows all of that, and there's no feeling out process, learning about who the personnel are. He can hit the ground running. Number 2, he's a really good recruiter. I mentioned Sione Takitake. He was also involved in the recruitment heavily of Fred Warner, Therian Alexander, who's running it back this season at cornerback for BYU. Kelly Poppinga, I think, is an excellent recruiter because Jay Hill was really good at that. Very relentless, and BYU's defensive recruiting leveled up in the last couple cycles. I think the offensive recruiting has leveled up too. So you wanted to maintain that momentum because BYU in the 2026 cycle, top 25 recruiting class, you do not want to lose that momentum because even though the portal is all the rage, and believe me, you want to get post-high school guys because they're almost a safer bet these days, but still, the best programs, their foundation is built with high school recruiting. I think Kelly Poppinga is an excellent recruiter. I think it's an important piece to all of this, along with running the defense. Number 3, nearly 2 decades of coaching experience, most of which at BYU, but it dates back to 2009. And you're not just hiring someone that's very green and raw. Now, running the defense and calling the plays, that's going to be new to him. He was once a co-defensive coordinator on Bronco Mendenhall's staff in Virginia. But there's a lot of collaborative on this staff, too, where he can turn to people, Gary Anderson, Sione Bua, and even Kalani Sitake as well. But I like that there is a great body of work of coaching experience, different backgrounds. I think that's good, too. And number 4, just simply, he's a BYU guy. And so much talk about the last couple of years of when's Jay Hill going to leave? When's Jay going to go? Now, never just assume, because someone's a BYU guy, they're never going to leave. I think that was one of the reasons why BYU got kind of put in the situation they were in with Kalani, where it got so close to losing that guy to Penn State, just assuming, he's a BYU guy. He'll never leave. He's never going to have the amazing offer that's going to have this situation where, there's got to be real contract negotiations. Don't ever just assume. And look, Kelly Poppinga, I'm sure, has got high aspirations in the coaching world. But if there's ever a day where Kalani moves on or hangs it up after he's, called it a career, maybe Kelly Poppinga could be next in line. I think those sort of things matter, especially at a place like BYU. And we've heard in the past, too, when BYU was hiring its AD in Brian Santiago, President Shane Reese, they wanted a BYU person, a BYU fanatic. Look, you don't need to be a BYU fanatic to coach the team, but I think it hits a little different when you actually are really moved by the program, the institution, the mission. When you're selling that on the recruiting trail in the portal, I think it's an important piece to the BYU coaching staff. But I think it's a good promotion for BYU football, tabbing Kelly Poppinga as the DC. He gets the nod, and now BYU's got to identify their special teams coordinator. Who are they going to elevate to that role within the staff? So there's still some moving pieces, as BYU noted, in terms of the final form of this defensive staff and the 2026 coaching staff as well. Let's take a break. We'll get to some more BYU football talk around the corner, BYU basketball as well, here on Cougar Tracks. It's powered by KSL Sports. Cougar Tracks rolls on here on the KSL Sports YouTube page every day. We're coming to you live with the latest insight, analysis, breakdown, intel into the world of BYU athletics. Appreciate all of you for being on board with the show daily, listening, watching the video on X and YouTube. Appreciate all of you. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the KSL Sports YouTube page, and subscribe to this podcast on any audio podcasting platform. 5-star rating and a review would help out the show a ton. BYU basketball is rolling right now. The Cougars annihilated Arizona State 104-76. First time BYU basketball reaches the century mark against a Power 5 opponent since 2013. Remember that game? That was against Stanford. That was a college tip-off marathon game late at night. Dave Pash, Seth Greenberg was on the call. Matt Carlino went off for 26 points. I think Seth Greenberg said Matty Basketball was the nickname. It's been a long time since BYU put up 100-plus on a power conference team. They did that on Wednesday night, and they cruised against ASU, and they did it without one of their starters in Keba Keita. Suddenly, BYU just has an abundance of depth in the front court because of the addition of Abdullah Bidu Ahmed, who had 5 blocks in the game. BYU just crushed ASU. Richie Saunders was fantastic. 31 points, a career high for Richie, and what was fun to see with that 31 points was the highlight play of the night. I thought the moment where he got the career high, knocking down the three-pointer. Rob Wright makes a brilliant pass behind his back along the baseline, and A.J. DeBonsa just marvels at the play at midcourt. It was outstanding. Richie Saunders is so good against Arizona State. Last year, he had a 30-point career high against the Sun Devils, and then he follows that up with a 30-point piece against the Sun Devils last night. Richie was fantastic. I also think, too, BYU, when they are hitting the three ball as they did on Wednesday night, 45% clip, and I predicted that on last night's preview here on the show. I just think it unlocks something with this team, a different dimension, and even Kevin Young talked about how that's forming a little bit of the identity with this team when they're hitting the three ball.
And tonight I thought we had a appropriate volume as well to get up 31 threes and shoot 25 free throws. I mean, you're not settling. They started out with the big lineup. I thought we were able to sort of open the game up with their bigger lineup out there. But look, I mean, AJ and Rob both, and Richie too, honestly. I mean, I know he's a great shooter, but, he's able to drive the ball to the basket too. So you got 3 guys like that are putting immense pressure on the rim. You got to decide what you want to do. And if you help, we got guys that can knock shots down. I thought Tyler came in and was part of that as well. So I do think, although I talked about the identity sort of being forged, I think that part of our identity is still a growth process in terms of, last year that's kind of all we were. Now it's starting to become more of who this team is as well.
Richie Saunders goes 6 of 8 from 3. BYU as a team, 14 of 31. Richie's going to have the open looks. You saw it in the Kansas State game, too. You just got to knock him down. And when he does, this offense can have nights like this. I almost say every night in the Big 12 because this is a fantastic league, and Arizona State's going to be near the bottom. But it's not out of the realm of possibility to reach the century mark when Richie is knocking down the three at a high clip as he did against ASU. And this was KY on Richie's career night against the Sun Devils.
No, I thought he was, super locked in, and that's what we talked about coming into the game. Our approach in practice 2 days ago I didn't love, and I just challenged the group to kind of start the game and leave no doubt who's the more focused team. I thought he kind of set the stage there. But I thought, his scoring was, really the product of like our spacing and our unselfishness, and then obviously his individual greatness. It was a great night for him.
Special players, Richie Saunders, and it was great to see him have that, great moment and great play against ASU because I thought the K-State game was solid, but it was a little bit up and down for Richie where maybe this could be a real turning point for him and really take off and be the player that he was last season, being that first team all Big 12 guy. He's got so much talent. This BYU Big Three is so good. 81 points between Richie, Rob Wright with 27, A.J. DeBonsa with 23. They outscore Arizona State. I mean, think about that. BYU's got 3 guys that can single-handedly outscore an entire team. And I'll tell you, Arizona State, even though I believe they're going to be near the bottom of the Big 12, they've got some individual talent. Like I look at Masama Diop and say, all right, 7-1, he drops 22. If you want to hit the portal, young man, that might be a guy. I mean, ASU's got some talent on that team, and BYU with 3 guys outscores them, and even Bobby Hurley couldn't help but marvel at that BYU's big 3, and really the only thing that his positive takeaway he could take from this game, this was Coach Bobby Hurley.
Credit to BYU and how they've grown as a program to where they are and been out west for a number of years, and to see the product they put out on the floor, you guys should be very proud of it. They not only have talent, but they play really hard and seem to play together in the right way. I mean, anytime you get 3 guys that outscore our whole team, that's a problem for us. They shot 26 of 31 from the field, which is a staggering percentage for 3 players to shoot that percentage in a game. I'm talking about Wright, Saunders, obviously, and Desponza. The only thing that we could hang our hat on leaving here tonight is that I think we did stop Chick-fil-A for the students. If I'm not mistaken, I think that we were able to get that done tonight. So, that's wonderful.
I'm not going to lie, that kind of surprised me to see a little bit of a lighthearted Bobby Hurley there, because usually he's pretty emotional. Maybe he can get a little fired up, especially after a tough loss. But part of me wonders if he's a guy that knows maybe he's not going to survive after this season. I don't know. It's year 11 in Tempe. It's just never leveled up to, I think, the expectations when he got hired. I mean, he was outstanding at Buffalo, and I think he's taken Arizona State basketball to a higher level where they get in the mix for some big-time recruits. They just haven't won many games. And I don't know what the expectations are for a basketball program like ASU. I don't know. I don't know what the hierarchy is of boosters, but you wonder, can they do better than a Bobby Hurley? But at the same time, they're just kind of mediocre. They're wallowing through mediocrity every single year. I mean, last year they had Jaden Quaytons. Now he's at Kentucky. Imagine that guy if they were able to retain him and keep a guy like Jaden Quaytons with Diop, and they get talent, but it's just not a great team right now, and BYU crushed them. Still an area where BYU, I think, can tighten things up a little bit. 16 turnovers again, so through 2 games in Big 12 play, BYU averaging 17.5 turnovers per game. You want to get that number down, which not very characteristic of BYU in non-conference play, so that's something to monitor going forward. Coming up on Saturday, BYU going to take on rival Utah. I think that's going to be a really fun game. I mean, the rivalry game is always a big deal, but I think this is the one year where I look at this matchup. Typically, the Huntsman Center is kind of a house of horrors for BYU basketball. It honestly is. I don't know if Cougar fans sometimes realize that, but it really has been a place that BYU has struggled. But I think this year, this BYU team is so good, and they've just got so much firepower that I struggle to think Utah's going to keep up. But it's a rivalry game. We'll have more breakdown on that one coming up tomorrow. Expecting to have Steve Bartle join me on the show tomorrow to break down the Utes as BYU and Utah get ready for a Saturday night clash, 8 p.m. tip-off, 7 p.m. pregame at the Huntsman Center. We'll have Cougar Sports Saturday live from noon to 3. Myself and Kyle Ireland will get you ready for the Cougs and the Runnin' Utes 2 times a year. BYU will face Utah on the 10th, and then I believe January 24th. So 2 weeks. We're going to see a lot of BYU and Utah over the next couple of weeks here in Big 12 play. Let's take our final timeout. On the other side, Bear Bachmeier. He's running it back. We'll hit on that and BYU's first transfer portal commitment. It's Cougar Tracks here on KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Mitch Harper with you. You don't need to worry, Cougar fans. In this portal window that we're in from January 2nd to January 16th, rest assured, the Big 12 Freshman Offensive Player of the Year, Bear Bachmeier, your quarterback, he's returning. He announced last night, he is running it back. Was it needed to announce? I don't know. Maybe. I think part of it is where Bear's probably just like, hey, I'm sick and tired of getting asked this. Run it back. Because, again, Bear has really enjoyed his BYU experience to where I didn't get the sense at all that this was going to be some, could he leave? Will he be back? I didn't get that vibe at all. But he makes it official and says he's running it back. And, again, as I've said this week, sometimes the best gets are the ones that you just keep. And Bear Bachmeier is a big deal, and he's going to be the face of BYU football next season. He is the program, and still waiting word on LJ Martin. And if you bring back LJ Martin, then you're talking about one of the best offensive backfields in college football next season with those two. But I'm really curious to see in what ways that Bear Bachmeier evolves as a quarterback at BYU from year one to year two. What does that look like with Aaron Roderick as the offensive coordinator? Bear was outstanding, though, this season. I mean, there's not much to nitpick as a true freshman. I mean, he's in the territory with Trevor Lawrence, 12-win season as a true freshman. You can go back and look at some of the performances from freshmen this year that were really good, but you go through the list, most of them were redshirt freshmen. Bear, true freshman, getting it done, and he arrived in June. Throws over 3,000 yards, was outstanding on the ground pre the ankle injury late in the season. I just think there was so much to like about Bear Bachmeier this year, and his toughness too. I mean, that guy is able to get yardage on the ground, even when he was banged up in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, to get that 2-point conversion and mow someone over. His physicality that he plays with and his ability to throw the football too is getting better, I think, as well. I mean, there were some great games where you don't have LJ Martin, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the Iowa State game. Both of those games, he goes over 300 yards through the air. So Bear can get it done in a variety of ways, and I can only imagine he's going to level it up. But expectations are going to be high. So that's always a little bit of a challenge. The last 2 years, expectations for BYU football have been low. This BYU team has the chance to try to match those high expectations coming up next season, but Bear Bachmeier officially running it back. And one of the guys that he's going to have the chance to throw the football to next season is an Oregon transfer in Kyler Kasper. He made his official announcement that he is committed to BYU. A former Oregon Duck wide receiver is BYU's first transfer portal commit, and this is some practice footage of Kasper at Oregon practice. He's been with the Oregon Ducks program for 4 seasons, but has barely played due to many injuries. He's 6'6", got great size, kind of reminds me a little bit of a Nick Kurtz type of player, 6'6", 218 pounds. He's been in college football for 4 years, but has 2 years of eligibility because he's dealt with some foot injuries that have caused him to be sidelined. This past year, he was shut down midway through the year due to a foot injury. So he gets a medical redshirt year, and now he gets the chance to continue his college career at BYU. And you kind of ask yourself, what are the expectations for this commitment? I think Kasper, you just hope that, one, he can stay healthy. And if he can stay healthy, maybe he can give you some contributions to potentially be a starter for BYU. The size, the experience being around a high-level college football program, that's intriguing. But again, health is a big question when it comes to him. And I think, though, I'm curious to see what he can become for BYU. He's got an interesting resume in terms of personal connections. His dad played in the NFL, and he also was a heralded player at the Iowa Hawkeyes program. Kevin Kasper played in the NFL from 2001 to 2008. He's also got a younger brother, Braylon Kasper, who's at American Leadership Academy down in Arizona. BYU has offered him. He's a 2027 recruit. So interesting connections there with Kasper, but intriguing prospect. And Kalani Sitake, during his time at BYU, he's like those big-bodied receivers in the mold of a Nick Kurtz. They've also got Reggie Frischknecht as well, who's 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in that territory too. So, hey, it's competition. I don't know if you say anoint this guy a starting receiver, but he comes in, has a chance to compete and see what he can become. I think the lack of production makes you wonder, what are realistic expectations for him? We'll have to see. But BYU has had success with guys that typically haven't produced much in their previous stops. Then they get to BYU and do some big things. Tyson Williams before he suffered an injury. Carson Ryan this past year at tight end. So we'll have to wait and see. But BYU gets its first transfer portal commitment of the 2026 cycle. So that's exciting for BYU football. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Cougar Tracks podcast. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast and check it out on the KSL Sports YouTube and nightly on KSL News Radio. Talk to you tomorrow here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports.